TikTok's future in America just took a stunning turn, and it's not what anyone expected. While the world watched Donald Trump posture about national security and protecting American data, behind closed doors, he's handed China exactly what it wanted. Following intense negotiations, a framework deal between the US and China has been reached, which may let TikTok still use ByteDance's Chinese recommendation algorithm under a licensing agreement. This isn't just about keeping an app alive, it's about Trump's complete capitulation to Beijing's bottom line. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that a key moment in reaching this tentative agreement came when President Donald Trump signaled that he was willing to allow TikTok to go dark in the US, rather than accept a deal that compromised national security. But here's the twist. That tough talk was apparently just for show. What we're seeing now is the exact opposite, a deal that may preserve the very thing that sparked the national security concerns in the first place. Under the framework negotiated in Madrid, TikTok's U.S. operations would shift toward American control. The law passed in 2024 demands that ByteDance divest its stakes or face a nationwide ban. That law remains central to the dispute. However, the terms of the deal appear to preserve some intellectual property rights, including the algorithm that drives TikTok's recommendation engine. This is where Trump's Tough Guy Act falls apart completely. Officials say U.S. user data and content security would be managed under stricter oversight. ByteDance would entrust operation of U.S. data and content security to American partners, though the specific technical controls are still being worked out. But if China keeps control of the algorithm, the brain behind what 170 million Americans see every day, then what exactly has been accomplished here? The algorithm has been the flashpoint in this entire dispute. U.S. lawmakers, security experts, and regulators have raised fears that ByteDance's control over recommendation systems could enable propaganda, manipulation, or influence operations. China qualifies such algorithms under its export control laws, which complicates any transfer or sale. These aren't abstract concerns, they're the core of why Congress acted in the first place. So let's be clear about what's happening here. Trump spent months threatening China, claiming he was the only one tough enough to stand up to Beijing and promising to protect American interests. But when it came time to actually negotiate, he appears to have given China exactly what it wanted most: continued control over the algorithm that shapes what Americans see and think. Wang Jingtao, deputy director of China's Central Cyberspace Affairs Commission, told reporters in Madrid that there was consensus on authorization of the use of intellectual property rights such as TikTok's algorithm. Think about that for a moment. The Chinese government official is publicly celebrating that they get to keep control of the very technology that American lawmakers said posed a national security threat. An Asia-based investor of ByteDance told the Financial Times that the new American TikTok firm would use part of the Chinese algorithm, though it would train it in the US. Beijing's bottom line is a licensing deal, the investor said. That's not divestiture. That's China getting to have its cake and eat it too. They maintain control while appearing to comply with American law. Congress has made clear it will closely watch the final terms. Lawmakers from both parties have emphasized that the agreement must comply with the law requiring full divestiture or risk violating U.S. national security statutes. The House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party said that any deal between Beijing and Washington must comply with the law requiring TikTok to be divested from its Chinese ownership. It wouldn't be in compliance if the algorithm is Chinese, a committee spokesperson told the Associated Press. There can't be any shared algorithm with ByteDance. But Trump appears ready to ignore his own party's concerns. This is the same president who campaigned on being tough on China, who imposed tariffs, claiming he alone could negotiate with Xi Jinping from a position of strength.
I mean, he's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. I mean, frankly, the Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers. But, yeah, he said, let me down. I don't like to see. It's death. You know, it doesn't affect the United States. We have, other than unless you end up in a world war over this thing, you could. This was a thing that would have never happened had I been president. If I were president, it would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Most people agree it didn't happen. nor was it close to happening. And I spoke to President Putin about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. I've said that many times. It was. But he would have never done what he did, except that he didn't respect the leadership of the United States. They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening, but I am very disappointed in the fact that that one's not settled. To think that we settled...
Looking back at his track record, we see a pattern of bold declarations followed by disappointing results. His approach to international negotiations has consistently involved theatrical displays of strength that mask fundamental concessions to adversaries. Instead, we're watching him hand China a victory that previous administrations refused to give them. The irony here is staggering. Trump built his political brand on the idea that previous presidents were weak negotiators who let China walk all over America. He promised to be different, to put America first, to never back down from Beijing. But when it came time to actually stand firm on a core national security issue, he folded faster than a house of cards. Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are expected to speak in coming days to finalize or confirm the terms. In parallel, U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent and trade representatives have indicated China may request trade or tariff concessions in return for agreeing to more sweeping technology transfer or licensing terms. So not only is Trump giving China what it wants on TikTok, but he may be preparing to give them additional concessions as well. This deal reveals everything wrong with Trump's approach to China. He talks tough in public, threatens consequences, claims he's protecting American interests, but when it comes time to actually negotiate, he caves to Chinese pressure every single time. Remember, this is the same president who signed a Phase 1 trade deal with China that Beijing never fully implemented, who praised Xi Jinping's handling of COVID-19, who has consistently prioritized his personal relationship with Chinese leaders over American national security.
What do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
We'd probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, so maybe they'll have to go after you.
His tendency to personalize political disputes and turn them into theatrical performances has repeatedly undermined America's negotiating position on the world stage. The Wall Street Journal reported that TikTok's engineers will recreate the content recommendation algorithms for a new app that current U.S. users will be asked to switch to, citing unnamed sources. But recreating an algorithm while still licensing the core technology from China isn't the same as true divestiture. It's a shell game designed to give the appearance of compliance while maintaining Chinese control. A U.S. advisor close to the deal told the Financial Times, "It's the ultimate taco trade," referring to the acronym Trump always chickens out. After all this, China keeps the algorithm. Even Trump's own advisors are acknowledging that this deal represents a complete surrender to Chinese demands. The timing of this capitulation is particularly telling. Trump has spent the first months of his presidency imposing new tariffs on China, threatening economic warfare, and claiming he's rebuilding American strength. But when China pushed back and put the TikTok deal on hold, Trump immediately started looking for ways to give them what they wanted. Treasury Secretary Bessent admitted that commercial terms had been in place since March or April, but the Chinese put it on hold after Trump's tariff policies. So China used TikTok as leverage, and it worked perfectly. Bessent said Tuesday that Trump was willing to let TikTok go dark, which spurred China to agree to a deal. But if that's true, why is the deal apparently giving China exactly what it wanted? If Trump really had leverage, if he really was willing to let TikTok disappear, then why isn't he demanding full divestiture of the algorithm? The answer is simple. Trump's tough talk was always just that, talk. When faced with actual pressure from Beijing, when confronted with the possibility that his young supporters might lose their favorite social media platform, Trump chose political convenience over national security. He chose his own popularity over the concerns that led Congress to pass the divestiture law in the first place. This isn't just about TikTok. This is about a pattern of behavior that defines Trump's entire approach to foreign policy. He creates crises through inflammatory rhetoric, then claims credit for solving problems of his own making by giving away more than previous administrations ever would have. He did it with North Korea, claiming his relationship with Kim Jong-un was historic while getting nothing in return. He's doing it with China now. The national security implications of this deal are enormous. If China maintains any meaningful control over TikTok's algorithm, then Beijing retains the ability to influence what 170 million Americans see in their feeds. They can promote certain types of content, suppress others, and shape American public opinion in ways that are virtually impossible to detect. That's exactly what Congress was trying to prevent when it passed the divestiture law. But Trump doesn't seem to care about those implications. He's more concerned with taking credit for keeping TikTok alive than with actually addressing the national security concerns that led to this crisis in the first place. He wants the political benefit of being the president who saved TikTok without doing the hard work of actually protecting American interests. The House Select Committee on China has already signaled that they're not buying Trump's spin. They've made clear that any deal allowing Chinese control of the algorithm would not comply with U.S. law. But Trump appears ready to ignore Congress, just like he's ignored his own national security advisors who have warned about the risks of Chinese influence operations. What makes this even worse is that Trump had real leverage in these negotiations. TikTok was facing a complete ban in the United States. ByteDance was looking at losing access to its most valuable market. China needed this deal more than America did. But instead of using that leverage to demand real concessions, Trump appears to have given China a face-saving way to maintain control, while appearing to comply with American law. The broader implications go far beyond TikTok. This deal sends a message to Beijing that Trump's threats are hollow, that his tough rhetoric is just posturing for domestic political consumption. If China can maintain control of TikTok's algorithm after all this pressure, what other concessions might they be able to extract from an administration that talks tough but negotiates weak? Trump's supporters will undoubtedly claim this as a victory. They'll point to the fact that TikTok remains available in the United States, that American companies will have some role in its operations, that user data will supposedly be protected. But these are superficial changes that miss the fundamental point. If China controls the algorithm, China controls TikTok. The algorithm is everything. It determines what content gets promoted, what messages reach the largest audiences, what trends take off and which ones disappear. If Beijing maintains any meaningful influence over these decisions, then they maintain the ability to shape American discourse in ways that serve Chinese interests rather than American ones. This isn't speculation, it's exactly what China does with Douyin, TikTok's domestic version. ByteDance partnered with 11 Chinese government agencies in 2018 to promote official narratives. The platform enforces strict content moderation that serves state interests. Users under 14 are restricted to educational videos and banned from seeing content about superstition, pranks, nightlife, and pro-LGBT content. Even soap opera clips showing fraught in-law relationships were reportedly removed for portraying negative social values. That's the model China wants to export to America, not through obvious censorship, but through subtle algorithmic manipulation that's much harder to detect. And Trump appears ready to let them do it in exchange for a deal he can claim as a political victory. The most frustrating part of all this is that it was completely avoidable. Trump could have stood firm on the divestiture requirements. He could have demanded that any deal include complete separation of the algorithm from Chinese control. He could have used America's leverage to actually protect American interests. Instead, he chose the path of least resistance, giving China what it wanted while claiming victory. This is what happens when foreign policy is driven by political calculations rather than national security considerations. Trump wanted to be able to say he saved TikTok, so he was willing to compromise on the very issues that made saving it problematic in the first place. He prioritized his own political brand over the concerns that led Congress to act with bipartisan support. The final terms of this deal aren't yet public, and Trump and Xi Jinping still need to speak to confirm the agreement. But based on everything we know so far, this appears to be a complete capitulation to Chinese demands dressed up as American success. It's Trump's foreign policy in microcosm, loud threats followed by quiet surrender. Congress should reject any deal that allows Chinese control of TikTok's algorithm, regardless of how it's packaged or what other concessions are included. The national security concerns that led to the original divestiture law haven't disappeared just because Trump wants a political win. If anything, this entire episode has demonstrated exactly why those concerns were justified in the first place. Trump came into office promising to be tougher on China than any previous president. Instead, he's given Beijing a roadmap for how to manipulate American policy through economic pressure and political leverage. He's shown that his tough talk is negotiable, that his red lines can be crossed, and that American national security can be traded away for political convenience. The TikTok deal isn't just bad policy, it's a betrayal of everything Trump claimed to represent. He promised to put America first, to never back down from China, to protect American interests at all costs. Instead, he's handed Beijing exactly what it wanted while pretending it's somehow a victory for America. That's not leadership, it's surrender with better marketing.